AVC, John here. Hope you're having a good weekend. Sunday here. Weird weather. We had a real heavy snowfall Friday night, 6 inches. Then torrential rain last night, which has caused it all to melt. So it came and it went quickly. Had a bit of an odd weekend, record collecting generally, and it sort of feels unsuccessful. But when I look at the haul that I've got and what I have got, turned out it was quite successful. So what the plan was planning to meet Harry in Rugeley and just pick up a record which we'd both reserved, which was new vinyl produced by somebody we know on behalf of a band that he's got to know, and it was his first foray into having a record label. So I'll tell you about that in a moment. We then planned to go to Sheffield on Saturday, me and my wife Julie, on the train to go to what was going to be quite a big record fair. But when we turned up, because of the snow the night before, lots of people hadn't turned up, so it wasn't so good. So they only charged us half price to get in, and there was only a few stalls. And then Harry, who'd actually gone to Sheffield the night before to stay with a friend of his, turned up, and his friend Rachel told us about a couple of other shops, one called Rare and Racy and the other one called Record Collector. So we then went to have a look at those as well. So this is the story of the weekend, if you like. Oh, by the way, I hope I've changed the angle around so you can just hopefully make it more interesting if the words that I'm saying are rubbish. So first things first, we went to Rugeley and I picked up this, which is a band called Peter Parker's Rock and Roll Club, and the chap that we know has supported the production of this, and it's a vinyl only record on mono. And it is a really fantastic looking piece of vinyl. It's blood red. There's only 300 copies, and the plan was that we were going to go to Rugeley, pick these records up, not spend too much because we were going to go to Sheffield the next day, and then go to the pub. Anyway, unfortunately Harry couldn't make it because he got stuck at work, so I just did a bit of a flying visit. But I just want to read you this, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on so don't laugh. It says, recorded direct to vinyl in single live takes at Lewis Durham's Vintage Recording Studio in the Riflemaker Gallery, Beak Street, Soho. The tracks were cut by a 1930s vinyl cutting lathe, previously owned by MGM Studios, and mixed in glorious mono on the same model of mixing desk used at some studios in the 40s and 50s. And then it says Peter Parker's Rock and Roll Club by Peter Parker, Lenny George and Sakura Mori. And the album's called Straight to Vinyl, and it's in mono. And listening to it, it has got a very early 60s feel to it. Peter Parker plays Rickenbacker guitar, so you can see the sound, and I mean the sound, not the music, the sound of, say, the Beatles or early Stones albums. But I have to say, the songwriting is not brilliant, so it is really just garage rock. So whilst it's a very clever project, I think it's never going to be a debut album like Van Halen 1 or The Strokes, This Is It. Is this it? It's just okay. But then I had a quick delve into the pound box and I picked this up. Till We Have Faces, Steve Hackett. It was his 8th studio album. Very distinctly, his former wife, who is called, I think, Kim Poor. It's one of her illustrations. It's not bad. It's not a bad album. The interesting thing is it's an American import, so how it found its way in there, I don't know. But I prefer his early stuff like Defector and just the names escape me at the moment. Was Defector. I'll put the couple of earlier ones in the notes below. So I picked that up for £1 and I've listened to it and it's pretty good. I then picked out this one, Like a Prayer, Madonna, just as a bit of a completeness really. It's got some good songs on it, but it was only £1. And then the one which caused much mirth in the shop to the proprietor, which I thought was pretty bad form, to be honest. Basically Road was Once Upon a Star. Now I come from the Mr. Hall of Fame, shameless school of music, so if I like it, it's my collection, and I don't frankly care what anybody else thinks. But I did pick it out because it's quite a clever sleeve. Besides the fact that I can remember the songs when I was about 10 and 11, but I'll just show you the sleeve. I mean, it'd be very expensive and they probably don't make these sort of things anymore. But each one's got the band member, but each card slides out like that. So the fact is it's really delicate and die cut across the top. and I just didn't think they would. These must have been 1,000 teenage, or hundreds of thousands of teenage girls' bedrooms, and how many have survived in this condition? I should think is not that many, but only £1 anyway. Then we went up to Sheffield, and we got there before Harry and Rachel, and it took us an hour on the train, which is not a long time, but you know, it's a bit of an effort to change at Derby. And we got there, and there was not a lot of stalls there. They're half the price of entry to £1, which was a. But anyway, I started looking through, and I found two things with one particular seller. First one is this, Stutter, the first album by James, first UK release on Blanco e Negro. Really nice labels on this actually. First Everything But the Girl vinyl releases were on Blanco e Negro, but as you can see it's sort of Sire, and I think Blanco had been taken over by Sire by this point, so both are mentioned on there. I was never a massive James fan really until became friends with Brett really, and he's put me onto. I had one album which was 7, and which I listened to occasionally, listened to more recently, but there was an altercation on Facebook where Rob admitted to not having much Cure, and there was some comment about, oh no, this is not very good. But to my mind, I said to Rob, that's an opportunity, and I think it's good when you do find things that you haven't got that people do support. So I've been listening to a lot of James recently, that's quite different to me. The first album was different to what I thought. There's only 4 members of the band rather than 7, which they subsequently burst. So I listened to about 3 times, really enjoyed it. And the second one from the same place was the Cocteau Twins, Garlands, which was their first album. I've got some of their middle period stuff like Bluebell Knoll and Heaven or Las Vegas, probably sort of mid to late. Heaven or Las Vegas is a fantastic album, my favourite. But it's really good to listen to their early stuff, and there's a particular track on there, which again I'm going to have to get my glasses on, called Shallow Then Hollow, and that's a really good track, first one, side 2. So I managed to pick up 2 things, so it wasn't a completely wasted trip. We then went to a place called Rare and Racy, which was more of a bookshop really, and antiquities if you like, so a lot of old photographs. It's quite interesting to me because I was born in Sheffield, and there was like ramblers groups, which I don't know if in the wider world rambling is just basically walking around on the moors having a good time and a picnic and things like that. And my parents and grandparents were massively into rambling in the Derbyshire Dales, so it was interesting to look on there. I mean, I didn't recognise any of my grandparents from the 20s on there, but they could easily have been on there, so that was interesting. A lot of books and a lot of a jazz specialist really, and then they had a few cassette tapes, and I picked up 2. This one, James, Gold Mother, which has got a track on there called Come Home, and I think that was one of the ones that Brett, I sent him on 12-inch, and he was really pleased to get that, and that was good, a good find. He did charge £1 for this, which I thought was a little bit steep. 50p might have been a bit nearer the knuckle really. And then I got another one, the late Cozy Powell, Over the Top, tragically killed at a young age in a car accident. So that was Rare and Racy. If I can, I'll put a photograph in. I have got one, but I'll try and do that. We then went out to Broom Hill, which is a suburb of Sheffield, and to a shop called Record Collector, which I've never been in before. Didn't even know it was there. It was Rachel that knew about that. She does music reporting on the Sheffield Star, which is a regional paper. And it was a really, really good shop. Lots of new vinyl, very small, as UK record shops often are. But it was split into second-hand CDs and new CDs and new vinyl. It was an adjacent shop. And the 2 things I pulled out were, there was the conversation on Facebook last week about this album, Star by Belly, which is possibly one of the horrible name I think for a band. It would never call my band. But it was actually Tanya Donnelly's debut with her new band from about 20 years ago, 1993. I've got both this and the follow-up King on CD. I got them at the time when they came out, and it's really hard to find this in good condition because it's got like it's quite a delicate cover. And in fact, another album we found at the record fair was Metro Music by Martha and the Muffins, which is, if you know, it's got the map on the front. And again, it was a very good price, and it was in excellent condition. I've already got it, so I persuaded Harry to buy it, so he's not come back to me yet demanding his money back, so I'm assuming he likes it. But these covers are quite delicate and hard to find in good condition. So the standout track for me on there is Feed the Tree, which I loved at the time and still do. And I was really pleased to find that after not seeing it for a long time, and it had been talked about on on Facebook. It's just the black vinyl version. Again, it's got, what do they call them, vanity labels? I've heard them call that. Great labels on there, fantastic labels in fact. The record itself is a bit dusty, but I've cleaned it since. So that was that. And then the second find was another one I've also got on CD. Was this Daniel Lanois Arcady, and it's in shrink. It's been opened, but it's got an unplayed feel about it. This, and it's got a very slight nick there, so it sort of suggests it might be remaindered, but it's not deep enough for that. The thing is, in the UK, if you spot shrink on a record, there's a good chance it's going to be an American import, because there is no history in this country of, until the second wave of vinyl, which we're in now, are often sealed, usually sealed. Historically, you know, when I was young and buying records, they were not sealed. So if you spot one that is in shrink, the chances are it is an import, and this in fact is an American import. Fantastic condition, near mint. And Daniel Lanois is a person you probably know more for his sound than you do for his name, because he's a very, very well known producer, and he's a real sort of well known. I first knew him as a name when The Unforgettable Fire, which is my favourite U2 album, and that shimmering sound is very synonymous with Daniel Lanois, and he's a French Canadian. That comes through in some of the singing he does in French, and some of what the songs call, like Jolie Louise. He also did the Joshua Tree, but this is a really, really good album, and this was £5 near mint. And my favourite track on there is the fourth track on side 2, which is called Ice. But I've had it a long time, probably, I think it came out '89, something like that. Anyway, fantastic album, brilliant find. I remember persuading Harry to buy it some months ago, and he was really pleased with it. So when I found this for £5, I was just over the moon with it. So that is it, really. That is so. For a weekend which, you know, we had a few disappointments in, A, being able to meet up at one point, and then getting to the fair and it being a bit of a disaster in terms of people that were there. I've got some great albums this weekend. So the only other thing I would say is that there's a thing about VCLT at the minute. It's a big thing in the community, and people sending records to each other, music to each other. And I don't know if you saw, I did send some stuff through to Brett, and you know, I never comment on those because I think it's a bit what's the word, a little bit arrogant, really. But the interesting thing was there was a lot of kind comments that people put there, and you know, about generosity, etc. But the reality is, it's not selfless giving, because it's such a blast to send something to somebody that you know they're going to really like, that it's not selfless, because well, the other thing as well, you know that person is going to really like it and probably be quite grateful. And whenever I've sent things to people, you get more back. You just do. So it isn't selfless giving. It's just a great aspect of the VC, that people are prepared. I mean, Harry and I do it all the time. I'll have a record and say, "Oh, do you want this?" And you know, or because I wouldn't dream of selling it to him. I just know he'll give me something in the future. So the fact that it spreads across the world. The only thing that really bugs me is the postal costs, where they seem to get a reasonable amount out of it. But the beauty in the UK is they've just put the prices down a little bit. So anyway, I won't say any more because this is 40 minutes. That's a really long video for me. Hope you're having a great weekend, VC, and hope to spend another week looking at some great videos. So take care.